Welcome back, and joining us now, just a little bit late, and I apologize, Tony. I let the clock get away from me. I got kind of sloppy on the clock. When I was on radio, it was a really rigid discipline. Now I'm just kind of relaxed, and I ramble on and on. It's another case of that right now. But joining us now is Tony Arterburn of Wise Wolf Gold, and folks, you need to do something to prepare for it. You may not be able to build a ballroom bunker, but you can set aside some gold and silver that is real gold that you can start stacking now, and you can do that gradually. Tony will work with real people who don't have a $2 billion trust fund that they just gave themselves at taxpayers' expense. So if you don't have that kind of money, you can work with Tony, and you can gradually accumulate and dollar cost average your gold and silver purchases. And that's a good way to do it, because the market is reacting to the lies and the actions and inactions of Trump. And so it is volatile, but in the long term, we know what these trends are and where they're headed. So you can bank on that. You may not be able to bank on the day-to-day fluctuations of gold but and silver, because the fluctuation of the value of the dollar and what Trump is doing to the stock market and other things because of his pronouncements. But you can dollar cost average this, and you can look with confidence at the trends. And he has set up davidknight.gold to help you to get there and let him know that you're coming through us. Thank you for joining us, Tony.
Oh, always a pleasure, David. And you don't ever have to apologize for going a little long. I listen to the show every day anyway. Loving your breakdown of Ritter and that disgusting episode, and more needs to be talked about. But that's certainly true. And I think you may have just coined a new financial instrument, the bunker trade. Like when the government starts building more bunkers, or billionaires are building bunkers, like, hey, what are you guys doing? You tell us to everything's okay and nothing's wrong. That's one of my favorite things to watch. Now, I've been a contrarian most all of my life, but hard lessons learned. I remember 2008 going into 2009, and all the financial radios and systems and all the news channels were so optimistic about the market. Mm-hmm. And I remember thinking, this can't be right. This can't be right. Well, I was only 28, and I remember thinking, well, maybe they are right. And as soon as it turned, that's why I was feeling that it wasn't. There was something inherently broken about it. And I was running, a couple of different businesses at the time. One of them was a fuel station, and I understood the rising cost of fuel and what was happening to people at the pump. What was happening to their financial situation.
It's just peanuts.
Right. Well, I remember what happened. It was a cascading event. Like, all the dominoes start to fall when one of those things increases. That's like the cost of energy, and that's directly in proportion to the price of crude. Mm-hmm. And we've seen this with these, the Iran war and the closure of the Strait of Hormuz. And I don't even think that we've really started to completely feel the shock that's been set into motion. I don't think it's
that's right. Right.
I don't think that timeline has actually upon us yet. So, I mean, there is some pain, but I think it's just anticipation of what actually is coming. It's kind of like the lightning strikes, but you don't feel the thunder for a bit. And I think that's what we're witnessing. And when we were talking off air, one of the things I'm watching right now, it's really interesting, because we think of the Federal Reserve, or the creature from Jekyll Island. We think of it as like this monolithic mind, but it has all these academics, and they have a massive payroll, and they're not of one mind. And, even Jerome Powell stayed on as one of the board of governors there. I think that seat is like up for another year and a half. So Jerome Powell will stick around, even with Warsh being confirmed. But they're facing something that I'm not sure that we really ever truly faced before. It's the amount of debt to GDP, and then you have to factor in inflation, and then you factor in economic turmoil or uncertainty and having to cover that. And then you factor in the price of energy, which is, I mean, we can talk about it being manufactured. If it isn't on purpose, they sure want you to think it is. I mean, and they're getting that price and pricing people out of the market. So there's all these things. You call them the centrifugal forces, if you want to.
And then, of course, there's tariffs as well. I mean, Trump started throwing wrenches in, he threw all these wrenches into the economy and the world back in 2020. And then when he comes back in for a second term, he starts out right away throwing more of them in. And so, it's amazing.
That's exactly right. The tariffs are another thing. So all of these factors, and they're not all on the same page. Some are dovish, some are hawkish. Warsh was certainly brought in to be dovish and to cut rates and let the good times roll. I mean, I think that's what this administration is all about. I don't think it's for economic health either. It's for this is a transition of some kind, and there's a transfer of wealth going on. This is a high level, high stakes, behavioral changes that they're structuring through the finance monetary system. So I'm just, this is something I want to talk to you about because I'm watching this. I don't know what they're going to do because they're certainly faced with all of these issues. At the end of the day, I think the quantitative easing and the rate lowering will win out. The market right now is responding like they're going to be rational. But I think if you just lay out the scenario, you war game this out, what you find is they have to print. As a matter of fact, there was another article up on Kitco. There was an analyst talking about this, and it said, look, if you just add up the global debt of the central banks and everything else, what they're going to have to do with the prices of energy and deflationary issues, because the prices are rising, and so they have all these deflationary issues. They're going to have to print like 50 trillion. Around the world. So
that explains something I've been seeing over the last week, of course, and I thought it was kind of interesting. I've seen report after report on YouTube brought up to me saying they're getting ready to cancel your mortgage. It's like, what? What is this angle that they're twisting here? I looked at a couple of them, and what they're all saying is that the government's got this massive $40 trillion balloon note that's about to pop on them. And really, how are they going to cover even the interest payments of this as it's escalating so quickly? They do it by monetizing the debt. How do you monetize the debt? Like you said, they print more money. They lower interest rates. They drive inflation up. And so what these people are saying, this is their little clickbait title. They're going to cancel your mortgage. What they were saying was, if you got a fixed mortgage, and hopefully you don't have a variable rate mortgage, but if you got a fixed mortgage, as this big inflation that is building up to kick in, as that kicks in, your mortgages are going to get cheaper and cheaper. But of course, you're going to be making more money and all the rest. Well, not if you're on a fixed income, you're not. That's why inflation always hits people on a fixed income. So, if you're retired, if you've worked your entire life and you've set money aside to provide for yourself, the government comes in and destroys that. I saw that happen in the 70s when we had the OPEC oil embargo that kicked off all kinds of price inflation and energy inflation. And so that's one aspect of it. But they were saying, so get yourself into real estate. Well, most people, if they're not in the housing market right now, it's so already inflated so much and with high interest rates that you can't get in. So what can you do? You can start to put money into gold and silver. Now, they don't tell you this, but you can start to put money into gold and silver. That's one of your only real protections against this inflation. And you can do it as much as you can afford, but you can do it piecemeal. You don't have to have some kind of a major commitment to a home mortgage to get into that. You can do it piecemeal with, again, Wise Wolf and the Wolf Pack. You can do it on a dollar cost averaging basis. But that is really what they're looking at. And so what their argument was, the government has to cancel its debt, has to cancel its mortgage. And when they do that, it's going to have the effect of canceling your mortgage effectively because of inflation. The other issue, however, is that unlike your real estate or your home, the gold and silver don't have any kind of a tax on them because they don't know where it is if you got physical. They don't know where it is or how much you've got. But they do know that about your home. And that's why I think a big fight is going to be over property taxes at the state and local level coming up because that's what's going to drive people out of their homes. So,
I totally agree. One of the most disgusting, unconstitutional, un-American things is property tax.
Yes,
I mean it's so bizarre that It's not a part of our founding principles. It's not a part of the American experiment up until recently. This is like when the urbanization of America kicked in, and all the rest of that. So you get these ridiculous property in Texas. It's insane.
Oh yeah,
the property tax. I mean, and you never own your home.
That's right.
You never escape the state. It's absolutely bizarre.
It's just like when I talked to Donald Rainwater, who was running as Libertarian in Indiana. He had a great approach to it. Basically, just look at it as a sales tax. Treat it that way. It'd be a one-time event when you buy your home, and then you're done. You pay it one and done. You pay the 7% when you buy the house. You could fold into your mortgage if you want, or you could pay it 1% a year for 7 years, and you're done. And all this stuff about going out and reevaluating the price of the home and everything, I've seen that game played my entire life. They come out and, there's two ways that they can jack up the property taxes every year. One of them is by reevaluation. The other one is by changing the rates. So when they go out and they do a reevaluation, they defend that by saying, well, the real price of houses have gone up quite a bit. You should be happy about that. And we haven't changed the rate. It's like, yeah, that's right. You'll do that next year. And so next year, they change the rate, but they don't change the valuation. And they tell us we should be grateful for that as well. But that's the way this whole thing is going to roll out, isn't it?
It reminded me when I first set up Wise Wolf in Denison, Texas. I went and I had I got my own Google address, but I was inside the antique mall that my mom owns in the Main Street Mall. And it was just a booth, and there's literally just like a booth, a counter, and a little display case. And the county came in and valuated that more than the entire mall. They evaluated more than all the booths, everything combined, the entire building my business was valued more. And it was really hard to fight. As a matter of fact, I have the bill right here.
Who'd you get angry?
And I just go, what is this? And I kept wondering, what is this bill? And then you look into it, and I go take it to my mom, and I said, what is? So yeah, it's more than the entire. It's all arbitrary. It's made up. It is. Totally bizarre. And I was thinking of this whole thing about made up, and I saw an article the other day about Warren Buffett, and it said Warren Buffett, he cashed out of the market, so he's sitting on cash. And I thought about that, and think of how bizarre that is. If you had a pile of cash in 2005, and gold was $400, $500, and you just sat on that pile of cash waiting to enter the market. Are you going to wait till gold's $5,000 an ounce to buy gold? That's weird to me. We have all these ideas in our mind about what commodities are worth. Based in dollars, but we never really think about the dollar. Is the dollar the same as it was last year or 2 years ago or 5 years ago? Of course it's not. It doesn't buy the same amount of goods.
That's right.
But it's weird. We just have this mental fixation on what the dollar denomination is. Like what are these commodities denominated in dollars for anyway, if the dollar's not fixed? So it's interesting that we have this delusion.
And as you've pointed out many times, you go back and, go back for decades, even a century or whatever, and look at what, a certain amount of gold would buy. And it's basically the same thing. If we look at something that is, a lot of these things, if it's not highly regulated, the price has actually gone down a little bit because the production sophistication goes up, and so they can make it a little bit more efficiently. However, most things are about the same that they were. It's the dollar that is changing. So it's your frame of reference. If you stand on the dollar and you stand on the gold and you look at the dollar, you can see how that is moving. Vice versa. Most people will stand on the dollar and think that gold is moving when it's actually fixed because they're going back and forth.
Well, that's right. If we go back to 1971 and gold was $35 an ounce, we went off the gold standard, which was, I was reading an article this last week, and it called it out as an experiment. We went on into a real life experiment, monetary experiment. And it was based on trust. Well, even if you take into account the amount of gold that was in circulation at the time, and I remember I had the author Alan Estrada on my show about a year ago, and he wrote a book called The History of Gold, and it's fascinating. He really went in depth with gold, but he had some figures for me he was throwing out. He said, from 1990 to now, they've had basically they doubled the gold that was in all known above ground gold was put into circulation. Like they doubled it. So there's this, I mean, and so you think about that even relative to the price that we have now. And so it's hard to do any kind of real price discovery on gold with fiat currency because it's and especially with manipulation and how much do governments actually hold and all the rest of that. But I find that to be interesting that we continue to denominate things in dollars and then we get really myopic on what the dollar does. And meanwhile, in the background, because we built this thing on trust, David, we built all this on, and then we have all the trust is diminishing. So that's why there's de-dollarization going on right. everywhere.
Yeah.
This is not talked about in the news. I mean, the mainstream news is not covering just how much the rest of the globe is pulling away from the dollars. They don't want any part of that system. You can see it. I mean, even, the Iranians have set up an insurance fund that is made of Bitcoin. Did you see this for the Strait of Hormuz for the vessels there? Because that's a non-confiscatable, unsanctionable currency that you can be used right now. So all this new technology that's on and the stable coins that are backed by gold and all the rest that's happening under, in the periphery of what's happening with the United States and our dollar. So I just, this is something I think we need to communicate to people that, prices, it's funny when you watch the price of gold, like I did this morning, and I noticed that it fell below $4,500. So what I immediately did was I went in and I bought some gold Combi bars, the tiny bars
it's on sale.
That's what I do. As soon as I go, okay, good. So I'll go buy another one because that's just inventory. And I already know that gold is at base level without the Iran war, we're at 5,000 plus an ounce base level based off of just based off fundamentals.
It's very much like what we saw when Trump got elected. There's all this hype about cryptocurrency and everything. He's saying that he's going to have an announcement about the Bitcoin reserve and stuff like that as well. He wants to keep that hype going. But everybody got interested in that. They lost interest in gold and it went on sale. And this is the same type of thing. This is a temporary situation. It is a distortion of reality. It's the Trump distortion syndrome, I guess. That's what the real TDS is. And it's a temporary thing because the long term, all these fundamentals are that drove gold up so much before the Iran war are still in place. And actually, they've been exacerbated by his actions.
You mentioned that, and there was a massive sell-off. So gold worked and it functioned as money. It's very liquid. You can get in and out of it really easy. That's what it did after the Iran war kicked off. And the fundamentals still exist. So we're still, we just become, I think, desensitized to how insane it is that gold is the price that it is right now. I mean, there's for years and years, you and I talked, and it was, 2000 or below 2000, even into 2022.
I still remember when it crossed the 2000 mark. It's like, whoa,
it
had
been the 2000 mark in 2020.
Yeah.
August 6, 2020, and I was hosting your show, down in Austin. And when it crossed, that's the first time it hit 2000, and then pull back from different times pulling back. But that all the all-time highs that we hit in the last year, do you remember that? I mean, just 30 or 40 all-time highs, new price discovery, because the monetary system based off trust and old institutional trust is falling apart, and it's being rebuilt. They're rebuilding it on gold, David. I mean, that's and there will be some, I think, room for silver in the monetary system, probably room for Bitcoin too. There was an interesting analysis. I don't know if you saw this, but there's a theory that a lot of the tech is about to be sold off, a lot of the tech stock, and tech is going to be sold off, and silver will be purchased physically. physical silver will be the next tech stock, or will receive the lion's share of the liquidation of a lot of these tech stock, because I think the economy, especially tech and other things, are in real trouble, because this isn't the environment is not one of trust. It's not one of certainty. Innovation, all that stuff. Yeah, you have the AI data centers, and that's another thing. But I'm talking about just tech in general, is in real trouble. And I think that a lot of that stuff's going to be, it's overpriced.
Yeah, so overpriced doesn't work well.
400 times earnings.
The enshittification of all of it, because it seems like the more they tinker with it, the worse things get. It's like we're not seeing any big useful revolution in the technology.
No, and we've definitely stalled out in a lot of areas. Other things there is some improvements in some things, but most of it, in general, there's entropy. Mm-hmm. That's the second law of thermodynamics. Mm-hmm. So things run down, and I think there's entropy there. And there'll be a renaissance in it someday. But right now, with the environment of the entire global environment economically looks bizarre, and I just start looking at where's everything going. The trends to me look like, okay, we're going to shift away from the dollar. The world's going to reset the monetary system. It's going to be backed by something. That's probably going to be gold or silver, or it'll be bimetallic. It'll be something based off that, because you can see it and hold it. They're building facilities to do just that, and it won't be paper anymore. Mm-hmm. There has to be a reinstitution of sound money and trust in order for the economic engine of the world to keep running.
And when you look at what they are focusing on, they are so hell-bent on making sure they've got a digital ID for everybody, so hell-bent on making sure they've got eyes on everybody. They want to be omniscient and omnipresent and omnipotent. They want to be God. And people are going to realize this big brother society that they're putting out there. One of the things that you're going to have in order to be able to survive is something that is physical and outside of their control. And so come to that realization sooner, because the sooner you realize that and start preparing for that, the better, because everybody is eventually going to get to that point. I mean, we look at the prohibition of privacy, right? They can't prohibit it. What they'll do is they'll create a black market for privacy, just like the drug war. They couldn't get rid of drugs. They created a black market for drugs. Right. And so you're going to get a black market for privacy. So start preparing for that right now. I remember talking to a sheriff out in Arizona, and he was talking about how he had worked in law enforcement in other countries. And he said, Americans just don't understand how common black markets are everywhere. Except in the United States. We haven't had a black market because we haven't had the kind of corruption that is now coming, the kind of control and totalitarian government that is now coming. But he goes, pretty much in most of the world, the majority of the world, there is a thriving black market, and people have to be able to operate in that black market in order to be able to survive. And that's what's really coming. And it's going to be priced, I think, in physical gold, physical silver, and things of that nature.
I agree 100%. And, we're just not there yet. It's on the horizon. Mm-hmm. And I think it's going to be an outcropping and a consequence of the financial decisions that are being made right now at the top, which are disastrous.
Yes.
I mean, it's going to create, and definitely they want a surveillance state. They want to use that. The excuse of a bank meltdown, a bank run, to usher in some sort of surveillance currency. And you and I have talked about this. Maybe it's not a CBDC per se, but it's a public-private partnership with one of the stablecoin system. And then they got the Clarity Act supposedly going to be passed soon. I know it's out of committee. I haven't got an update on that. Yeah. But and there's probably some good things in there too. But that to me is the path that they want to take. And they're certainly not doing anything to bolster the current system, which I'm going to bet on chaos. And I look at the Fed has all these academics like we discussed. I think a lot of them are living in the past, and they've got normalcy bias, and they're institutionalized, and they're going to be looking at rebolstering the influence of the Fed. I don't know. I think it's all creative destruction at this point. I think they're going to just turn on the printer, and it's some eventual timeline. We're just going to see, like Larry Lepard wrote the book, The Big Print. I think it's going to be the biggest injection of cash and currency in the history of the world, and it'll come here very soon. I mean, I think probably before the end of the decade, in order to usher in something else. And it won't be the dollar you grew up with. It's going to be something else, and that will create parallel systems, which is great. I might be operating in a parallel system. I had a guy come in yesterday, goes, well, I guess you probably won't be in business, in a few years. Eventually they'll come in and just take all the gold and silver. And I think, well, maybe, I'm definitely not going to give it up willingly. I don't think I'll go quietly. But maybe not. There's and different states have, I just saw Alaska put gold and silver as legal tender. So, I mean, there's stuff happening on local and state levels that are, I think, very helpful. So it's not all just one thing. And we've seen how incompetent our rulers are. I don't know. I mean, they can have some pretty scary technology.
Yeah, when you look at what they're doing, it is not in their best interest. I'm looking at this, and I'm looking at the influence and the power of the American empire, which I do not support. And Trump is burning that in the same way that Biden burned the American hegemony on the financial system. And so they're by using these levers in a wicked way, they're basically burning this stuff. And they don't have control over other countries like they've got control over people domestically. So there's some things that they're used to getting away with doing whatever they want. And how many times have we heard Trump say that? I can do whatever I want. But they can't do whatever they want and get away with it when there's other countries out there that are going to react to that. And so they're burning their own power base down.
Yeah. You get like this monstrous empire, militaristic police state that does DEI. It's like, well, you've got all these bad intentions. You got a tyranny state, but you just can't find the people to do it. I mean, you think the people at TSA are going to be able to really create the perfect police state? I don't think so.
Yeah. These are people who invade Iran and don't think that they're going to close the Strait of Hormuz. They're not playing chess at all, not even one dimension.
It's so true. I remember I've talked to you about this before, but I mean, I go back to the 90s and I remember just driving with my dad, talking to him about, foreign policy. And he would say, well, if you hit Iran, they're going to close the Strait of Hormuz. I mean, I knew this in just 97, just like talking to the old man. I don't know, and then they have all these war peed. And we didn't even get into the fact that, the Secretary of War just went into campaign against the sitting congressman.
Yeah,
that's never happened.
Because he's one of the few people to stand up to these undeclared wars, eternal wars, and all the rest of the stuff. So it is unprecedented, isn't it? And War Pete is a piece of work. He truly is. Yeah, I keep thinking, as you were talking about, what has happened to the dollar. I think the really interesting eye opener was I played with. I saw this article about the very first Jeopardy winner, and she won only $345, and that was back in 1960. So they were talking about how much this recent winner got. He got like $19,000 or something. He said, well, because of the value of the dollar, she won that in 64, and so today that'd be worth about $3,900, right? Because the way they calculate inflation, I thought, well, how do you calculate the inflation in terms of gold? And so I looked at it because in 1964 we'd not had the Bretton Woods II, so it was fixed at 35. And so if she had taken that $345 and bought that equivalent amount of gold, it worked out she would have today about $45,000. So they're not even, when they tell you the inflation numbers, it's like everything else they do, whether they're talking about the labor statistics and the unemployment rate or the inflation, it's all a lie. As Audi says of Modern Retro Radio, it's all a lie. And every government statistic is a lie like that. So the devaluation of the dollar has been far more severe than they say in their CPI.
Well, it's same statistics in the minimum wage, David. To go back to 1964, I think the minimum wage was like $1.25 or something like that.
Yeah.
If you take $1.25 in silver quarters, that's about, let's see, that's about $60 or more, right?
I should
Right
have
now,
my dad pay me in silver dollars back then, I guess. I remember working for $1 an hour for my dad in his business. He paid me minimum wage, and I guess I was overpaid.
How little. Yeah, I had the same thing. Used to go work for my dad at his stores, the convenience stores, and he'd pay me less than the people that work there, but that's okay. I'd get a check, but it'd be less than that. I still got a check. But I learned a lot.
Of course, there were some fringe benefits. He did give me a house and food, so he didn't give that to the other people as well. There's thing. That, so thanks, Dad. Appreciate that. But it's good to learn the value of a dollar, isn't it? But a lot of people still don't understand what the value of the dollar is because it's evaporating so quickly.
Well, that's true. And this is part of the cycle of history that we're in. We're not going to be able to escape this. There's nobody that's going to come and fix this current system in any meaningful way. It's up to us. I mean, at the end of the day, we are in charge of our own financial destiny. There's always these outside forces, and there's going to be pain at the pump, and there's going to be pain at the grocery store, and all the rest of that stuff. And I've even noticed. We don't have the same kind of volume people are selling to us, but then the same kind of volume people buying. I think people are just right now, and it's completely understandable, not sure what to do, or their capital's tied up, and they're unsure of the next move. And we've had so much volatility in the metals markets too. There's just the fallout from that is still going on. But ultimately, at the end of the day, we're in charge of this, and only us. There's nobody's coming to save any of us.
That's right.
What Washington is doing.
Yeah, there's an interesting bill that's been put in Canada. You've got a conservative MP in the Conservative Party of Canada, very concerned about central bank digital currency. This is an article from LifeSite News. I looked at that and I thought, do they not realize the danger of stablecoin, the private version of this? And but they do understand that. But as they point out in this article, it's got basically no chance of being passed. So don't look to politicians to do the right thing. Don't look at them to preserve even cash. This guy sees it there. We've had people like Frank Nicely here in Tennessee, who used to be a senator, and he understood it. He understood where this is going. He was trying to set up structures to make it easy for people to use gold and silver as legal tender, and to try to get the state to have some gold reserves so they'd be able to continue to do business when it all hits the fan. But those types of people are few and far between, and they're gone for the most part. When I look at this, Tony, I made a note to myself that, it's not really going to be the Federal Reserve that's going to be manipulating this stuff. It's really going to be Lutnick and Trump. They have figured out that rather than having a central bank digital currency, they could do the digital currency themselves and they could make money with it. And so I suggest that what we call it is, instead of the Federal Reserve, we could have it called the Epstein Reserve, because that's really what we're going to wind up getting from this Epstein crowd of Lutnick and Trump. They're going to set up a new monetary system that'll surveil us, that will block us from doing things they don't want us to do, and it will make them rich at the same time. The Epstein Reserve.
I like that. That's I think more apt, and let's name things what they should actually be called. I'm in agreement with that, David. Finally,
yeah. Maybe instead of billions of dollars to renovate the Federal Reserve building, maybe they could just take over the former home of Jeffrey Epstein and Lutnick. They're right next to each other. It's probably, you combine them, it's pretty big, probably in terms of square footage. So,
I mean, we should just put Epstein on the 100 and just get it over with.
That's right.
At this point,
do a commemorative coin,
or put Epstein on that $1 trillion platinum coin that the Treasury was going to make. You remember they were going to make a platinum coin that was, and just nominated a trillion and just give it to just to pay off the debt. That'd be fun.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, anything that's changing at Wise Wolf in terms of any activities or specials or anything like that are going on there?
No specials or anything really. I've neglected to do that the last few weeks. I'm just trying to get a handle on this market. As I've discussed, it's a crazy volatility, and in figuring out our next move, I think really just keeping supply open, but always the same deals, for davidknight.gold, and you can put in promo code David, or you can put in promo code 1776 and get some free silver with any Wolfpack purchase. And then we also have, for anyone who's interested, we have an affiliate program. We pay 1%. So if you got an affiliate link and you share that, you get 1% on every sale, but you get that every time they renew as well. So I don't just pay one time. So if somebody's got a membership through your link, and it takes only like 5 minutes to sign up. So I've got that available. You can email us through davidknight.gold, and we'll send you an affiliate link. And I haven't pushed that really hard. We pay out like once a month or so, I think. And so if you wanted to make some extra money, and it's easy, we just we make it easy for you to share the link, and people can go to Wolfpack and purchase, and we'll know it came from you.
That's
so
great.
Yeah, anything like that for is, I think, valuable for a little extra money, especially in the face of rising prices everywhere.
Oh yeah, yeah, and we didn't even get to India and Turkey. Turkey is having some issues, and both of them are. We talked about the fact that this slow-moving train that is headed towards us has really not arrived yet, but it has for them. Both of them are heavy exporters of energy, of fuel, and they're feeling this already. And so in India, they are the second largest buyer of gold, and most of that is being done by individuals. And so the Indian government is basically telling them, don't do it. And I don't know if they've made any prohibitions about that or not, but Turkey has been selling their central bank gold, and India is trying to do everything they can to make it at least discourage, if not prohibit, the purchasing of gold in India. So this is working out to our advantage in terms of dropping the price of gold temporarily. And so I think it's not yet another one of these buying opportunities for the long term, I think.
Well, it is crazy, and I think it might have something to do with their national currency. But right before this, about a year ago, they made it to where you could use silver in India as collateral for home loans and other things, and for business loans, which they hadn't before. That you could use gold but not silver, and then they put a tariff on it. So I think the last time I checked, it was like 6 weeks or so of customs has held up metals for individual buyers in India. So the premiums internally in India have skyrocketed.
Because they don't produce any internally. So all of the gold is imported, just like all their oil is imported, and a lot of their food as well.
Yeah, I think it's probably a good indicator of, you fast forward the clock, 60 months from now, and the West is probably going to be looking very similar to that as people scramble to get out of fiat and into metals.
Yeah, absolutely.
And when it happens here, that event will show just how fragile the metal system is in the United States of America.
Yeah.
People don't realize they can pick up the phone and get whatever you want, and you can't. I mean, it's right now. I think I can get just about anything, but it's the buying pressure is not there.
Yes,
so
I agree.
You add the another 2 or 3 or 4% of the population, we're in some real trouble. There's not enough real to house all the fake.
Yeah,
let's put it that way.
That's right. Everything is fake, and everything is pretty much a lie that they tell us, isn't it? It truly is. But again, I've known Tony for a very long time. I would highly recommend him. He's always been great to deal with, and it's good to know the person that you are trusting to give you a backup system here. He's the guy packing your parachute, so I would trust him for that. Thank you so much, Tony. I appreciate it. Always great to have you on, and thank you for supporting the program. Really do appreciate that. The common man. They created Common Core to dumb down our children. They created Common Pass to track and control us. Their Commons Project to make sure the commoners own nothing. and the communist future. They see the common man as simple, unsophisticated, ordinary. But each of us has worth and dignity, created in the image of God. That is what we have in common. That is what they want to take away. Their most powerful weapons are isolation, deception, intimidation. They desire to know everything about us while they hide everything from us. It's time to turn that around and expose what they want to hide. Please share the information and links you'll find at davidknightshow.com. Thank you for listening. Thank you for sharing. If you can't support us financially, please keep us in your prayers. davidknightshow.com.